Welcome to another edition of the AfterBuzz. My name is Brandon Coates, your host. As you can see, completely healthy today. There's absolutely nothing wrong with me. I'm joking. And I thought I had that muted, but I don't. But anyway, so we'll cover a few topics today. The first thing I'll get into here is I'll go over kind of, everything that's going on here. So I do get questions about what the hell happened to me. And then also I got some pretty interesting stories about Bill Belichick, the New England Patriots head coach, and some stories that not a lot of people, they're not like secrets or anything. It's just that some people don't know this stuff. And being a diehard Patriot fan, these are things that I know about Bill Belichick. And we also have an update on the Mo Show's cutest pet. The results are in, and we will get to that at the very end of this episode of the AfterBuzz. But thanks for joining me. On that note, make sure that down below you're clicking like, you are subscribing to the channel, you're clicking the bell so you get the notifications, all of that fun stuff, so you know when we're on live and when we upload new videos. So we'll jump into the whole shoulder thing. If you don't know this about me, I've already had previous shoulder surgeries. I've had one on each arm. The first one, I've actually had 3 total arm surgeries, but we'll get to all that here in a second. The first one was in '96, and it was on my right shoulder, and that was from baseball. But the injury didn't happen because of the game. Basically, what I was running into was the ligaments, the thing that holds your joint together, were too long. So anytime I'd throw the ball, my shoulder would separate, like it would come out of the socket. And it got to the point where it was excruciating pain, and it was having like numbness in my hands. So in the summer between my sophomore and junior year, sophomore and junior year was when I had surgery on my right shoulder. And then in '99, after I'd graduated, a buddy of mine, we would try to go work out frequently, about maybe 4 or 5 times a week. And I noticed that anytime I'm trying to bench or I'm doing anything that's involving this motion, my left shoulder is giving me problems. It's popping out of joint. It's doing the same fucking thing. So I went to the doctor, same doctor. And as I'm sitting in the room, they're prepping me as a new patient and all this other stuff. And he walks in, he sees me, and he's like, "You don't need to do that." And he grabs all this stuff. And he's like, "Dude, I know this guy." It's because I had surgery 3 years prior with this dude. So he knew exactly what was going on. Went and had the same thing done to the left shoulder. Fast forward to 2006 for my elbow. I was playing softball, and something kept just causing me excruciating pain in the elbow. And it's the same thing. The ligaments are so long. It's basically pulling on the joint, like it's separating. And your nerve that runs, your funny bone nerve, the one that runs between the bones, basically every time I would throw it, it would stretch that, which was causing pain. So it's like smacking your funny bone constantly. But ultimately what they ended up doing is they went in. I don't know if you can really see it, but I got a nice little scar on my elbow there. And so they moved it. So as opposed to the nerve going in between the 2 bones, it now goes on the inside of my arm. So kind of in the elbow pit area is where that thing is at. So anyway, now we fast forward to 2019. And this is something that had been giving me problems for a while. My shoulders always ached. They always hurt. I just figure that's just the nature of the beast of how I'm built, because the ligaments thing is just how I was born. And so I just kind of went through life with, sucky shoulders and, constantly being in pain. If you needed to, I would take some ibuprofen, but really nothing more than that. And then when I really started getting into working out and I was doing, kickboxing and mixed martial arts, I was having to stop doing certain things because the pain became excruciating more and more every time. And this was over a year and a half ago when the pain really got bad. So, my wife is a physical therapist. We kind of looked at some things. We were trying to strengthen some things and get better form when it came to some other things as well. And just nothing was working. And it's just constant pain, constant pain. So last year, I finally just was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the doctor. I'm going to figure out what the hell's going on. So I made an appointment with an orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Westbrook, who's the shit, by the way. This dude's awesome. Scheduled me for an MRI. And when I went into the MRI, that took a couple of times, by the way, because if you don't know this, back in 2006, I went in for an MRI for my elbow and I got stuck in the MRI tube and it fucking freaked me out.
Really?
But it wasn't even like I was in there for long. So I had an MRI done when I was in high school for my shoulder, for the first one, but they put a washcloth over my face and, I slept through the whole thing, basically. But then this one in 2006, the lady was like, "Oh yeah, if you need anything, just tell us. We'll pull you out." And they stick me in about halfway, and I'm kind of twisted around inside the MRI so they can get a picture of the elbow. And all of a sudden, I'm like, "Don't open your eyes. Don't open your eyes. Don't open your eyes." And I open my fucking eyes and I start freaking out. And like, I guess the microphone was broken inside the MRI tube. So I'm yelling, I'm like kicking my feet. And finally, after a few minutes of this, the lady comes running into the room and she kicks the thing, like she pushes the button and it scoots me out. She's like, "What's wrong?" She thought, because it had already started, she thought I had like something metal on me and it ripped out of my skin because, it's a big magnet. And I'm like, "No," like that freaked me out. And she could not have given less of a fuck that I was having like a full-blown panic attack because I got stuck in that tube. She's like, "Oh, we'll just reschedule our appointment," and like walks away. I'm like, what the fuck? So I had to go in for a second one, really doped up back in 2006. And this time I knew it as well. So when they scheduled me for the MRI, I told the doctor, I'm like, "Look, man, I'm going to need something here to get me through this because I can't do this sober. Like, this ain't happening." So they gave me a prescription for Valium. I took one pill. We go in. I'm already kind of feeling a little bit loopy. The wife took me in there. There was two MRI techs that went with that were back there. One of the guys was a listener of the show. That was kind of cool. And my wife was right there, so she's like holding my hand through the whole thing, or gripping my leg, kind of like letting me like, "Hey, I'm here. It's okay." And so they stick me in the tube, and within 5 seconds, I'm like, "Get me out." And I didn't open my eyes this time either. Like, I could just feel it. And I'm like, "Get me out, get me out, get me out." So they scoop me back out of the MRI. I take another pill, and it takes me like to the point where I'm almost asleep to be able to get me into the tube to actually be able to get the MRI done. So the MRI results come in, and there's a tear in there somewhere. It's a labral tear, which is a piece of cartilage that's inside your shoulder. And the way that Dr. Westbrook explained it to me, he's like, "We can see that there's a tear here, but we don't know what the extent is, because everything in there is kind of holding everything together anyway. So you can't just like see something like hanging off, like it's not, because everything's already kind of tightly compact in your shoulder." He's like, "But we'll know the extent of the damage when we actually get in for surgery, because at this point there is a tear. We do have to go in for surgery." And another thing that they fixed too is this little knob that you have right here on the top of your shoulder. Mine would swell up, and it's like arthritis basically, and it swells up and it causes excruciating pain. So he had to go in and kind of sand some stuff down in there as well to create some space, because it was all too compact is basically what it was. So I originally had the surgery scheduled for November. That got postponed. Then I had it scheduled for January. December, got that postponed. So then we ended up doing it here in January. And so I go in for the surgery, full on thinking that, it'll be like 1 week, because the way the doctor explained it was, it could be a simple cleanup job. Like, it's not completely torn. It's just, maybe, there's some damage in there, but it's nothing that, is going to cause too long of a recovery period. He goes, "You'll be out like a week. But then after that, you can get back to moving, doing stuff that you need to do. It's really not that big a deal." But he's like, worst case scenario is it's completely torn off of the bone. That's going to be a 4 to 6 weeks recovery, just to allow that cartilage to reattach itself to the bone. It takes 4 to 6 weeks just for that thing to reattach. And then after that, that's when you truly start the recovery period. So we go in for surgery, and he's guessing by my amount of pain and the amount of movement that I have, it's option A. It's simple. It's just a cleanup job, not that big of a deal. But then when he gets in there, it's, as you can see based on the picture here, it was fucking shredded. Like, it was completely shredded. It was torn off of the bone. It was the worst case scenario is what it was. So he had to go reattach it and clean all this stuff up. He did the stuff on the top here. There's 3 incisions where they did the arthroscopic surgery. So I got three little holes in my shoulder. And so, surgery was done. The whole thing is fucking numb because they do what's called a block. And they ask you if you want it. You don't need to have it if you have this kind of a surgery, but they ask you. And what it is, they stick a needle in your neck, and it hits the nerve that feeds your arm, and it kills that nerve for like 12 hours or something like that. And so that means at that point you can't move your arm, like you can't do anything with it. It's dead. But I chose to have the block, so we got that. And like Kim's asking how long in the sling? 4 to 6 weeks. I got to be in the sling because that's how long it needs to be immobile for that piece of cartilage to reattach itself to the bone. So I got to talking to my wife about it, who's a physical therapist. She sees stuff like this quite frequently. And I was like, well, I thought that it was going to be that, like the simple one. Like I figured, like my assumption was based on what he had said, my amount of pain and my ability to move made it seem like it was going to be maybe a week's recovery and I can get right back out to it. And the assumption that we kind of came to was the fact that I've already had previous shoulder surgeries. Oh, that's another thing he had to do. He had to clean up a ton of scar tissue that was in my shoulder. Wow. But if you've ever had an injured shoulder or anything like that, you got those rubber bands that they have you work out with where you pull out, you pull in, you pull up, you pull this way, like all these different things that you do with it. And like the guess that we had kind of come to was the fact that I've done that for so long, the shoulder was strong enough to withstand this torn piece of cartilage, this torn labrum that's in my shoulder. So the average person, as I was told, that had this kind of injury, they can't do this at all. Like they can't lift their arm. And I've been boxing for 1.5 years with this stupid thing.
Yeah, you've been doing MMA and all that stuff too. You've been rolling around.
Yeah, which probably wasn't helping. Well, it did get to the point last year. I told Isaac, my trainer, I did tell him, I'm like, look, you know what? I'm gonna have surgery anyway. Let's just fucking go for it, man. So we did, but unfortunately, like it gets to the point where you can't take the pain, and you can't really do what you want with your arm. So you'd rather not do something incorrectly when it comes to your form, right, just for the sake of doing it. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. And so just to go do it isn't going to do anything for you. If anything, it's going to put you back a few steps. So ultimately, it's going to be a pretty lengthy process here. We finally did take the bandages off, and I can kind of see what's going on there. I don't know if you can really see it on the camera, but like it's like red, and it's like that super sticky stuff that's from the tape that they put on. Oh, that was a bitch taking that stuff off. But yeah, so now we're looking, because originally when I told everybody on the show, I was like, Joanna and I are going to have to switch spots for about a week. But at this point, it's going to be a minimum of 2 weeks, because I go see the doctor a week from this Friday. So I'm not doing anything until I at least see the doctor. And from my understanding, he didn't speak to me after the surgery, but he did speak to my wife. And he did say it's going to be at least 4 to 6 weeks, because you have to allow that to reattach. Because what'll happen is if you get if I get fucking around here, and I do something, and it can just come off, and it's gonna re-tear itself, and then it's gonna be a problem.
You're right-handed, right?
Yeah, I am right-handed.
Have you? I mean, operating with just one hand or just using one hand right now? I mean, have you? Does it suck? Have you?
You kind of forget. You forget the amount of things you need two hands to do. Yeah. Like seriously, just take your arm and don't use it. Don't use one of your arms, and leave it at that. And the one of the more difficult things is obviously getting a shirt on, because I got to take this whole thing up, prop my hand, like leave it on my leg, slide the shirt on over and stuff. Because my wife had been helping me with all this stuff, but I don't want to have to completely rely on her, because I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I don't want her to feel forced into getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning just to help her husband fucking dress. Man, I felt like she's helping me take a bath last night. I'm sitting in the tub, and we're like rinsing me off with like the couple. I'm like, I feel like I'm fucking 6, man. But fortunately, I believe next I'm okay to actually start showering and stuff like that. And did I bump my mic? Is that why people were saying that? Like I smacked the hell out of that when I was moving around. It's difficult because I actually have it hooked up to my sling. So it's sticking out further than it normally would. Like it's not up against my body. It's actually sticking out by like an inch or two. But yeah, so anyway, it sucks, but I'll live through it. It's definitely different. Like switching positions with Joanna. It's definitely, God, it's weird being in there, because for the whole first day, Buzz would be like looking back, and he always looked confused whenever he would look back at me, like the fact that I'm the one that's sitting there. It's awkward, but I'm getting used to it. But hopefully it's, this thing, it does recover, because I like being in my studio. I like being, behind the board and everything. But the problem is when you're working on that board, you have to be able to move both arms because you're hitting something here at the same time you're hitting something over here. And right now I can't do that. Right now I can barely do this with my arm. And the one movement that I've been told do not do under any circumstances is take my arm and move it out that way. So obviously if it's my left, it's going to be going in that direction, but just you don't do that at all. And like I was telling producer Dave here over the weekend, I was on a pretty strict pain pill regiment where it was every 4 hours I had my alarm set. If it was on the night, I would wake up, I would take a pill, go back to sleep. And man, they make you so fucking like drowsy and groggy, and it takes the pain away, which is good. But the sooner I can get off of that stuff, the better. Because right now, like when I get home, I'll take one because I'm in excruciating fucking pain right now. Because I'll take one when I get home, I'll take another one tonight, and then I'll take another one later in the night. So I usually take 3. But then when I wake up at 3 o'clock to get ready for the show, I'm not taking one because I can't take that and come to work. Like I'd be asleep. Like I would be an absolute zombie. So I'm not going to do that. So basically that whole time from, throughout the show and until now, it's just, that's when the pain gets worse and worse and worse. And it fucking sucks. But it's not the end of the world. Like it's not like I'm going to die or anything. I did wear the compression socks, which were super sweet. The ones that go all the way up. Like I look rad. I look like a ballet dancer. But anyway, if there's any questions that anybody has about the surgery, any previous surgeries, you're more than welcome to fire away in here. I had told Buzz, like he mentioned it on the show today. Well, I didn't want to ask, and I didn't know what you had done. I'm like, dude, I've actually told you what I had done. Like I explained it to you. But of course he doesn't remember. It's one thing that pissed. I fucking went off on him on Monday, by the way, in the meeting. Like I stormed the fuck out of that meeting because I was beyond pissed because I'm fucking tired of him not remembering things and then throwing fucking fits. And he's like, well, are you remembering it correctly? I think it was more like this. And I had it. That was it. And so I fucking slammed my laptop shut and I stormed the fuck out. I'm like, I'm done with this, dude. Like it's absolutely, it makes me irate at this point. The fact that he does it. And then he tries to play it off as a joke sometimes. And I'm like, A, the joke ain't even funny. And B, all you're doing is continuing to prove that you don't remember shit. Like, that's it. Like, it's just trust us that we know what the fuck you say. He's like, well, how do you guys know? When Kevin's sitting down there taking full notes of the meeting, and it's like, well, he fucking wrote it down, dude. Like, what the fuck do you think? But anyway, sidetrack. Anyway, if you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to fire away here in the YouTube chat. I do have a couple of Bill Belichick stories that I could bring up. So I don't know if anybody knows this, but he was the head coach of the New York Jets at one point. Like everybody knows that he was the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. He was there kind of in the mid-90s. He was the coach that was there when the team packed up and moved to Baltimore. So he had to deal with that crap. But he was one of Bill Parcells' disciples. Like he worked under Bill Parcells. So he kind of went wherever Parcells went because right now, Belichick, the name of his boat is 7 rings because he's got 5 with New England and then he's got the 2 that he won with the New York Giants when Bill Parcells was the head coach. So he kind of followed him around. And as you know, Bill Parcells coached the New England Patriots. He also coached the New York Jets. And he had groomed Belichick and they had planned on having Belichick take over the head coaching position of the New York Jets. This was back in 2000. But what happened was Robert Kraft has to be just an absolute, like one of the biggest smooth talkers in the world because the dude is just a slick businessman. He and Belichick got McDaniels to turn down the Indianapolis Colts head coaching job after he already accepted it and after they already announced him as the new head coach. So Robert Kraft is a smooth dude because what happened was they announced Bill Belichick as the head coach of the New York Jets. And then the following day, he quit and took the job as the head coach of the New England Patriots.
Wow, from one day to the next.
It took one day. And he famously resigned on a napkin. And the napkin just said, I resign as HC of the NYJ. That was it. And then he ended up delivering like a half-hour speech that explained his resignation. The guy he replaced, by the way, also Pete Carroll. Yes, there you go. I don't know if it's the actual picture or not of the note, but it just says I resign as HC of the NYJ. So that's something that not a lot of people really know about Bill Belichick, is that he was only there, and he was the head coach of the New York Jets for a whopping 1 day. Um, but then there was let me see here. What was the other thing I was going to get to with Belichick? Oh, so there's a secret coach for the New England Patriots. And of course, Buzz brings up the whole, well, that's the guy that's filming and yada yada yada. And it's okay, like you're not only ill informed at this point, but you just sound stupid. Um, but the guy's name is Ernie Adams, and I guess he's been around with Belichick for years, and he has been his official title is Football Research Director. But the problem is this dude doesn't give interviews. They don't really know what he does. I was listening to the Dan Levitard show from last week, and they were talking to Bob Ryan. Bob Ryan, a long time New England Boston sports columnist, and they're talking to him about it. He's like, we asked questions, but nobody knows. Like, we don't know what the hell or who the hell this guy is, or exactly what it is that this guy does. But he's like Bill Belichick's right hand man. Um, so yeah, so it's weird to know that there's this guy that's around, and I don't even think there's a lot of New England Patriot fans that know that this guy exists. Um, it had on here on his Wikipedia kind of what it is that he does. Um, it says here Adams joined the team not as a coach, but as football research director. Adams fills a variety of roles for the team. On game days, he assists the coaching staff from the press box, advising Belichick on which plays to issue a replay challenge. Now, that job isn't that far, it's not that weird. Like, most teams have a guy that does that. Sometimes they might have a coordinator, even somebody like that, who does it. But there's usually a guy up in the booth who, when a play happens, they can watch the replays really, really quick, and they are in the ear of the coach, and they're the one saying, challenge that. That one, you need to throw the red flag. He also assists the scouting department in preparing for the NFL draft in the spring and builds the team's player value chart for the draft. And this is where he does his job very well. And it's also where he is pretty poor at his job, because Belichick, he's really good at drafting certain positions. He's also really bad at drafting certain positions. The wide receiver position is notoriously a bad draft position for Bill Belichick. If you think of the majority of these really, really good wide receivers that have come through New England, which there's not a lot because they're only there for a couple of years and then they move on. But Randy Moss came in a trade with Oakland. Wes Welker came in a trade with the Dolphins. The one big guy that they did draft, Julian Edelman, and he wasn't even a wide receiver. He played cornerback, or he quarterback in college. And there was a time there where he played on defense because Belichick told him after they drafted him, look, we're not sure where we're going to put you, but you're a football guy and we like football guys. So we're going to find a spot for you. So they ended up having him, like they were really depleted on the defensive side. So they had him playing defensive back for a while. And then it was when Wes Welker left to go to Denver, the team had signed Danny Amendola. So everybody was thinking immediately, well, Danny Amendola, he's a stud. He's coming from St. Louis where he's put up huge numbers. He's obviously going to be the guy that slides into that Wes Welker role. It wasn't. It was Julian Edelman who slid into that role. But again, wide receiver, a pretty notorious position that Bill Belichick just absolutely can't draft for some reason. But then it also says in here that Adams works on special assignments for the coaching and scouting staffs, which typically involve breaking down game tape. In 2007, as a part of Spygate, it was revealed that Adams received tapes from a third camera that recorded, and I did the air quotes because there's actual quotes in the thing. That's, I'm not doing that to be a dick or whatever. It's actually in the article. That recorded opponents' defensive signals from a location on the sideline in violation of a league memo issued by Commissioner Roger Goodell. Belichick confirmed this was the case, but said that they were only part of a small part of the mosaic that were the Patriots' offensive game plans at that time. One really quick note on Spygate. Everybody's freaking out. The Patriots never filmed a practice. That's something that a lot of former NFL players bring up on ESPN. We're like, oh, they were filming the Rams practice. That was never proven. It's never been talked about other than these people saying it. The Patriots never filmed a practice. What happened on Spygate was the NFL had sent out a memo filming the other team's sideline is perfectly acceptable. You can film the other coaches to try to pick up on the offensive or defensive signals, whatever the coordinator is sending in, or usually there's the coordinator, and then there's a person next to him who's kind of doing this thing to the linebacker or to the safety, the person who's going to give their unit the play call. There's always that person that's doing these signals for them. And filming them it's not unheard of. But the position at which you're filming them is a problem. And from my understanding is that you weren't allowed to be indoors is basically what it was. You couldn't have like a roof over your head, like in a room filming this. And the third camera that they got access to, that they got busted for, it was actually filming cheerleaders. The vast majority of the film is filming cheerleaders. So it's interesting to me how everything has gotten blown completely out of proportion when it comes to this stuff. But again, the whole reason that people care about it is because the Patriots win.
That's what I would be filming if I was cameraman, to be honest with you. So.
Well, there you go. and something else that people don't really realize. The Patriots busted the Jets for doing the same thing a few weeks prior. NFL didn't do shit. But then the Jets complained about the Patriots doing it because they saw the dude up there. Because here's the deal. Every team did it. Every fucking team did it. Patriots are the ones that got the example made out of them because other teams had been busted for it before. Hence, the Jets getting busted for it. And everybody's like, oh, well, they cheat to win. What happened after Spygate? They rattled off 18 consecutive wins, having the only 16-0 regular season record. So clearly they needed those fucking tapes to win. That's not the case. Same thing with Deflategate. Oh, we need to deflate the footballs to throw them. Brady's stats have gone up since Deflategate. So this whole they need to cheat to win, it's bullshit if you just look at the numbers and see the fact that they win more after they got busted for bullshit. Let me see here. Let me check in on the YouTube chat here really quick. Producer Dave here just asked, in your opinion, greatest NFL coach of all time? It's Bill Belichick. Like, it's hands down Belichick. I understand the Vince Lombardi argument. I understand the Tom Landry argument. I even understand Jimmy Johnson argument. Jimmy Johnson, somebody who I think is highly underrated as one of the greatest head coaches of all time. But the reason that you got to think about Bill Belichick, he's doing it in an era where sustained success is not wanted by the NFL. The NFL doesn't want the dynasty. The NFL doesn't want the Patriots because what they've noticed is when it came to baseball, you always had the Yankees. Basketball, you always had the Celtics and the Lakers, and there was always those few teams on the top, and that would lower ratings because people got tired of the same teams over and over. I've seen this before. I don't know if it's happened in the NBA because for a few years there we had Cavaliers, Warriors. And I don't think it affected ratings that much, but I could be wrong. Don't hold me to that. But the NFL doesn't want that. The NFL is built for parity. The NFL is built for you're going to be good for about 4 to 5 years, and then you're going to have to take a dip. Belichick has been doing it for almost 20 fucking years now. The only year they didn't make the playoffs, they still went 11-5, and it was the year Brady had tore his ACL in week 1 and Matt Castle filled in, and they lost out on basically the tiebreaker to the Dolphins for first place in the AFC East. That is the only year that they have missed the playoffs since the original run started back when they won Super Bowl 36 against the St. Louis Rams. But anyway, David B is saying the Ravens won the Super Bowl because of the system that Belichick had built with the Browns before they moved. Yes and no. Ravens had a really good coach in Brian Billick, and then it was weird. It's like the second somebody leaves Cleveland, they become a winner. Like, think about that. Like, Cleveland Browns fans, you're out there, and the Ravens are a pretty decent team. And although I think the good thing for the Browns, their future looks bright. Their future looks really, really bright. But anyway, so then you also have Kim saying that Phil Jackson's for the NBA, Belichick is for the NFL. Yes and no. Phil Jackson was able to kind of jump around. Phil Jackson always had like the biggest superstars playing for his team. I kind of get the Zen coach argument. He was always able to get the best out of his players. The dude has more rings than he has fingers. Like, he's got 11 total rings. He won 6 with Chicago and 5 with the Lakers. But if I have to choose between the two, you got to take Belichick because he's done it. The only consistent player the whole time has been Brady. That's it. And then if you just look at that whole span of time and how he's been able to do it, use free agency, and the fact that he trades players off before they suck. There's a lot of teams out there that they'll have a guy who's played really well, he's performed really well, and then all of a sudden they sign him to a big deal, and then the production just drops right off. Like they stink like out of nowhere. Belichick somehow has a system to know when this happens, which is why he has no problems trading players off. But there's also players he's traded off that have continued to be good. Chandler Jones in Arizona, they traded him away. He's continued to be at the top in the league in sacks with the Arizona Cardinals. Jamie Collins hasn't been terrible in Cleveland. Richard Seymour still did okay when he was in Oakland. But a perfect example of this, though, is Malcolm Butler. Everybody was always wondering what the hell happened to Malcolm Butler. Why is he sitting in the Super Bowl last year against the Eagles? And everybody knew that the Patriots were not going to bring Butler back. They allowed him to go to the Titans. Malcolm Butler was statistically one of the worst, if not the worst, cornerback in the entire NFL last year. It's like Belichick knew this was coming, and he knows when to distance himself and get these players away. So anyways, we got the Super Bowl coming up on Sunday. Producer Dave saying, who are you betting on winning the Super Bowl this Sunday? Of course, being the Patriots fan, I want to say the Patriots, but
they're just a but.
It's just this team to me still has the vibe of the Patriots team that made the Super Bowl against the Giants the second time, where they kind of lucked their way in. Granted, they didn't get lucky to beat the Chiefs. Like that, they played a damn good game to beat the Chiefs. They had to play their best game to beat the Chiefs. But that year, which I think was 2011, when it was Patriots Giants, and the Patriots lucked into that Super Bowl because the Ravens kicker missed like a 30-something yard field goal. He shanked it to the left. And that was what got the Patriots in. And that was not a really good Patriots team. It's just Belichick knows exactly how to get his team ready for the big moments. And he knows how to make them play situational football. That's why they win consistently. That's why they've made the playoffs for so many years. David's saying the Rams defense is pretty good. The Rams defense should be good. It's not as good as it should be, though, because you've got Aaron Donald, who's arguably the best defensive player on the planet. You've got Ndamukong Suh. You've got Aqib Talib. You've got Marcus Peters. You've got what should be probably the best Rams defense out there, but it's streaky. And the one thing that they struggled with this year was the run. What's the one thing they were able to do against the Cowboys? They stuffed the run. What's the one thing the Patriots have relied on to get them through the playoffs so far? The run. Mm-hmm. Look at the Chiefs and the Chargers games. The Patriots were able to run the ball with Sony Michel for big chunks. They were taking up 7 to 8 minutes on those opening drives and scoring touchdowns. So that right there, if the Patriots can do that, then yeah, they got a definite shot. But for some strange reason, it's one of those situations that for some reason the Rams were just terrible against the run. They were the worst against the run, I believe, in the regular season. I think they were allowing 5.1 yards per carry. But then when it came to the Cowboys game, man, they absolutely stuffed them. So I think that's what is going to be the key to this game. Can the Patriots get the running game going? Man, I don't know. Do you know what the line is at this point?
I don't know.
Producer Dave's going to look that up really quick to kind of figure out exactly what the line is for this game because I'm not sure. It's probably like plus 2.5 or 3 or something pretty close like that. And if you remember, the Patriots' first Super Bowl win with Brady and Belichick was against the St. Louis Rams. They were 14-point underdogs in that game. And a rumor that I had heard, but had not gotten confirmed about that team leading up to the Super Bowl in the practices is because remember, that was the greatest show on turf, and they had some fast wide receivers, just crazy fast wide receivers, which they're going to be going up against this time, a guy they're familiar with in Brandon Cooks, who the Patriots traded to the Rams in the offseason. Matt's saying 2.5 to the
Pets. Yeah, 2.5 New England. Yep.
So are they plus or minus? Like, are they favored or the
favored?
underdog?
Yeah, New England's favored by 2.5
Oh, no
points.
Shit.
2.5 points.
Man. Damn. But yeah, so one of the things that the Patriots did to build up to that Super Bowl to get ready for it is and again, this is a rumor that I'd heard, is that when they were practicing and they would be lining up, the defense, they would have them line up on the line of scrimmage, but they would put the receivers 2 steps behind them so that when they snapped the ball and they started the play, the quarterbacks were immediately playing catch up. And they did that in anticipation of how fast the Rams wide receivers were and to try to get them used to look, you might be behind this guy. You got to get up to him. You got to be able to play from behind. You got to be able to play catch up in this game. So anyway, enough Super Bowl talk. Again, my pick, I gotta go with the Rams. But then again, another reason I'm probably doing that is I picked against the Patriots so far in the playoffs, and it's worked. So I don't know, but it's going to come down to that running game and whether or not the Patriots can run the ball or if the Rams can stop it. Because obviously the Rams proved they could stop a really good running team in the Cowboys with Ezekiel Elliott. But yeah. So anyway, so if you guys got any more questions or anything, bring those up. We got one more thing we're going to get to here on the AfterBuzz, and that is the victor, Chewy. Thank you everybody who went and voted for him. There were some people who did not vote for him and for some reason felt the need to tell me that they didn't vote for him. Why would you email me that? Don't do that. He fucking won, man. But yeah, I got the email over the weekend from Emily. You know, she's the one that runs the websites, and she got the stats in, and she was like, "Hey, Brandon, you want to take this blog because Chewy won?" So Chewy won. Rocky came in second. I believe Tubby came in third. Penny, that's the two-faced cat of Joanna's, came in fourth, and then poor Junior came in fifth. But yeah, so Chewy, he's the victor. He's the man. And if you want to see the actual numbers and everything, you can head on over to buzzadamshow.com. But on that note, one more thing here. Kim's saying that the over-under is 57 for the Super Bowl. Super Bowl is always difficult to bet because you would think, oh, they're going to score a lot of points. These are two very high-scoring offenses. It's going to be a great game. Patriots almost never score in the first quarter of their Super Bowls. It doesn't happen. But then again, last year you look at that Patriots-Eagles Super Bowl. That thing was a fucking shootout at the end. So on that one, I don't have any idea what the hell. I'm not picking either way, I guess. But if I am having to pick a winner, I'll just say the Rams because for now that's worked, and the Patriots have won picking against them. If that's not the only reason I'm actually doing that. But anyway, so on that note, Chewy is the victor. Now you guys know what's going on with my shoulder. If you guys do have any questions about the shoulder or anything like that, you guys are more than welcome to type it in here really quick into the YouTube chat. But also, yeah, so as we wrap up this edition of the AfterBuzz, remember, like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that fun stuff here on the bottom of YouTube so that you get the notifications and everything like that when we're live with the AfterBuzz. You'll also get the notifications when we upload videos. The podcast that I'm working on with said famous person, it's getting very close to an announcement and a release date for the first episode. So if you guys have any life questions, maybe you need a relationship question, a work question, whatever it may be, we will be covering stuff like that in this podcast. You're more than welcome to email me, brandon@buzzadamshow.com. The email is right down there if you would like. Let me see what else here. Brandon, can I go over the Metallica tickets raffle info for tomorrow if you know? The Metallica ticket raffle, well, we'll be covering that frequently over the next 24 hours, but I believe there's 4 different chances for you to win Metallica tickets. And all of the information you're going to need, rather than me just rattling stuff off, if you can head on over to klaq.com, all that information is going to be there. We're going to do a bunch of fun stuff, throughout the day. It's going to start in the morning. Mondo the Monster Medina, he's coming back. He is going to be out at Speaking Rock giving us updates throughout the show. That was the reason that I flipped out on Buzz and I left the fucking meeting on Monday because last week we had agreed I would be the one to go out there, but then after my surgery I was like, I can't drive. Like, I'm riding with Buzz right now. I can't drive. So that got brought back up in the meeting. Buzz was like, well, I never agreed to this. And I'm like, yes, you did. Like, this is exactly what we talked about. And the reason that we agreed on me is because I can't run the board. We need Joanna to run the board, and then Lisa to do the news and stuff. And so the easiest thing was just stick me out at Speaking Rock, because I can't do like the button pushing that needs to be done to run the show. So put me out there with all the prizes and I can go out there and talk. And he's just like, I never said that. I never agreed to that. And like digging his heels in for no fucking reason. And that's why I'm like, dude, and that's why I got super pissed. I'm like, this is what we fucking agreed to. Like, and I remember this. And he's like, what? Like he looks down the table to Lisa and Joanna to see if they agree. He's like, well, see, they don't remember. I'm like, well, because they don't listen to the fucking meetings anyway. Like, they're buried in their phone or their laptop. They're not fucking paying attention when it comes to this shit. So I'm like, this is what it was. And he was for so fucking adamant about it. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, tomorrow we got a nice big marathon going on, or a radiothon, I should say, going on all day, where we're going to be auctioning off a bunch of items. Some of the stuff with like autographed guitars, that stuff I think it's online, and you'll be able to do that until midnight Sunday. So it's not just tomorrow. It's going to continue on. But on that note, everybody have yourselves a fantastic Wednesday. I'm going to go the hell home and take some pain pills and play Red Dead Redemption 2. I took down the legendary moose yesterday, which was fantastic. I went and sold it to the trapper. And today I might look down the alligator. Or who knows? I'm going to do some hunting today in Red Dead Redemption 2. But on that note, you guys have yourselves a fantastic Wednesday. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the bell, all that fun stuff. And we'll see you guys bright and early tomorrow morning and next week for the AfterBuzz.